Well, good afternoon. Welcome to October 7th, 2019. We are glad that you've chosen to join us this afternoon for the first commissioner meeting in October. And so, as is the tradition of this board and boards all across our country, we start with a couple of things. We're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance. We're also going to have a prayer. That prayer is called a solemnizing prayer. And by legal definition, that means it's held at the beginning of the meeting and it's for us, the commissioners. It's not for you. We take what we do very seriously and we seek wisdom to make decisions that are in the best interest of the entire county. And so we'll do that here at the beginning of the meeting. We'll ask Chaplain Taylor Jr., he's filling in, pitch hitting for his dad. So we're glad he's here with us. So commissioners, if you'll join me, we'll get started.
Father, we come to you today. First of all, we want to thank you for these commissioners for what they do daily. Lord, I ask you to just be with them and their jobs each and every day, that you'll just give them wisdom and guidance. And I ask you just to be with this meeting today, that let it go according to plan and just be with the decisions that are made. And we again thank you for everything that you do for us. Thank you again for these commissioners. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for being with us. A couple of things a little different today. We've got a screen over here on the side. We hope that won't be too much of a distraction.
That's why that's there.
We think someone broke in a couple weeks ago and put the hex on the room. We had the big screen up here that fell off the wall one weekend, and I think they meant for it to hit while we were in session, but I'm not sure if the timing was right. But anyway, we're working on repairs for that, so we hate for the distraction there. And then before we get started, I would like to recognize our county clerk, Carolyn, for, most of you probably read in the paper that we were honored as one of the very few communities in North Carolina to have the opportunity to have the North Carolina Supreme Court hold session here. And so last Monday, in observance and celebration of the 200th anniversary of the North Carolina Supreme Court, they are going around the state to just a few communities and holding session. And so we were one of those communities last week. We had our Supreme Court held case in here. They had two cases, one at 9:30, one at 11. It was really instructive, very exciting to watch, but it was an awful lot of work to put together with the logistics of Secret Service, of the justices themselves and their team and kind of their entourage, and coordinating that with Judge Wagner, who is a federal court judge here in our area. And so Carolyn just spent literally months putting all this together and went like clockwork, and we got a lot of kind comments from the justices and their team about how well it went here and how much they enjoyed being here. So if you guys would join me in giving Carolyn a round of applause. So thank you, Carolyn, for all your good work. So we've got a couple of additions to our agenda. We had some late budget amendments. We're going to add that as item 7A on our regular agenda. And then there was a NCDOT Ryan Transit System grant, and Leslie said we could just add that if you would approve it to consent item as consent item H. Item H. So does anyone have any other amendments, additions, deletions to the agenda? All right, if not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, do we have anyone signed up for public comment? Nope, no one for public comment. All right, then we'll move on to public hearing. Item number 3. This will be Aaron. Aaron, welcome. Z07-19. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Z0719, it's a request from Stephen Seckler for a rezoning of his family's properties located near the intersection of 152 and 153 from RA to CBI. There are 6 tax parcels as part of the request. They total about 11 acres. If we take a look at the land use plan, this is located in Area 3 of the Western Area Land Use Plan, a small area south of NC 152. And the plan encourages a mixed-use development on or near commercial nodes in the area. And the intersection of NC 153 and 152 is recognized by the plan as a potential area for a regional node. And the plan encourages allowable commercial uses in the community commercial nodes that support existing and future populations' needs for retail goods and services. If we take a look at the zoning in the area, the property is currently zoned rural agricultural, but it adjoins an approximate 300-acre CBI tract or group of tracts. The existing CBI district is primarily agricultural land, but there are plenty of businesses that are located along this area. This area is also in a Watershed 4 Flat Rock branch, and commercial development inside this area has a maximum of 24% built upon area or 36% built upon without curb and gutter. And then that's allowed to go up to 70% with the approval of an SNIA permit. And anything over 3 acres would also be subject to the new high density standards we've adopted. So we take a look at the vicinity. The request itself is mostly empty fields right now with a couple of residences on it. And then in the general area, it's mostly farmland with a few commercial businesses located right along NC 152. Now, NC 152 currently has a design capacity of 15,000 vehicles per day, and in 2018 it was about 8,800. And then 153 has a design capacity of about 14,000 trips per day, and as of 2018 it was at about 4,000. And then back in August at the planning board meeting, the planning board adopted the following statements: a statement of consistency that the proposed rezoning was consistent with the Western Area Land Use Plan and NCDOT traffic counts. The property is adjacent to other CBI districts. And they adopted the statement of reasonableness that the property rezoning is reasonable based on section 21-362J of the Rowan County zoning ordinance. And it's within the public's interest and is adjacent to existing CBI zoning and located in a community node. And then for today, we need to conduct a public hearing, adopt statements of reasonableness and consistency, and then approve, deny, or table the request. And then if you have any questions, both me and the applicant are here today.
All right, any questions for Aaron? All right, don't go far. Is the applicant here? Would the applicant like to say anything before we get underway? No? You sure? You look like you wanted to. How about your younger sister would?
My name is Charlie Burr. I live at 4085 West Highway 152, China Grove. This is my brother-in-law, Steve Douglas Seckler, along with my wife. They own the property. It's been in our family for years, but we're getting a lot older and we can't take care of this much property, and instead of leaving it for our children to deal with, that we would like to go ahead and do something with it now. But what we would like to do is to benefit the Atwell Township and the Saw community, as there are not many places to eat, that we have to travel large distances and from 5 to 15 miles in any direction to just maybe go to a Hardee's, not less sit down to eat. But we would like to get some commercial development on the land, maybe some shopping, eating places, and things like that, because we've lived in this area all of our lives, and there's never been nothing in this area for us or the citizens to benefit from. So that is why we're requesting that you guys approve this zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Any questions for the applicant? All right, then we'll open the floor. The purpose of this is to give the community an opportunity to speak for or against any type of changes we're doing. So we'll conduct a public hearing right now. If there's anyone that would like to speak for or against, or just come up and say something, that'd be the time. All right, seeing none, then we'll close the floor, and commissioners will need to, on page 9, and if someone's there, or if you'd like me to read statement of consistency. Is anyone there?
Motion,
Go
yeah.
ahead. Yeah, please.
Make a formal motion statement of consistency. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the Western Land Use Plan and the NCDOT traffic count along the thoroughfare. The property is adjacent to other CBI districts. Make that in form of a motion.
All right, we have all right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
And statements of reasonableness. The proposed rezoning is reasonable based on sections 21-362J of the Rowan County zoning ordinance, as it is within the public's best interest. It is adjacent to existing CBI zoning and is located in a community node. I make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Say aye.
Aye.
All right, then we need a motion, please, to approve Z07-19.
So moved.
And a second. All right, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you. Good luck. Bring us a bonefish grill out there. Be great. Dr. Muir, public hearing for ground-mounted solar energy systems moratorium.
Thank you. And good afternoon. So this is the public hearing for the ground-mounted solar energy system moratorium ordinance. As a reminder, back in September, I believe it was September the 3rd, the commission adopted a resolution of intent to notify the community or the county that you would be considering this moratorium ordinance today. And I'll be brief, but I'll go through the ordinance contents. It's about 3 pages long, but it's standard in its format. It's established, or the criteria is established by statute, what it really needs to contain. In the preamble, we note that the board has been delegated the authority to govern Rowan County and adopt zoning and development regulations and also amend them from time to time. Here we see that NCGS 153A 340H specifies the requirements for establishing the moratorium, and that in Section 1, the moratorium ordinance may be cited. Again, this is a temporary ordinance that would expire at the end of the 6-month period if the board so desires, but it would be called the ground-mounted solar energy system moratorium ordinance for facilities greater than 6,000 square feet, and they're located in Rowan County. And again, that's in the Rowan County planning jurisdiction, and it would not be applicable to any of the municipal jurisdictions or their ETJs. So what are the problems that are recognized by the ordinance, or they're enumerated here? The last several applications that have been in front of this board for solar energy systems, I think the board has voiced some concerns over these 4 items here. The first and foremost is the land use plans. We've got 3 of them, the east and the west, and then the corridor plan for the southern I-85 corridor. They do not consider these type of facilities as a recommended land use. There's also been some complaints during construction phase and even after they're in operation. Visibility has been one of the concerns. I think the board has gotten these emails over the last couple years that address this issue. In 2013, the Planning Board made some amendments to our zoning ordinance that allowed or considered solar facilities as a conditional use in a couple different districts. I think it's fair to say at this point, after having 12 applications that the board has seen, there's some things that probably need to be looked at a little more closely or revamped. So I would say that the initial amendments did not consider the scale, location, and setbacks, among other things. And then more recently, we've learned about the opportunity for decommissioning and ongoing maintenance, and that's something that we haven't seen before, but we think that may be a condition that's added as part of our zoning requirements. In Section 3, the applicability, I mentioned this earlier, but this applies to all properties in the Rowan County zoning jurisdiction. During this time period of the moratorium, it's going to allow the Planning Board an opportunity to study the issue and any implications associated with them, and then make a recommendation to this board. The moratorium duration is for a 6-month period beginning today, if adopted, and running through April 7th of 2020. Unless amendments are adopted sooner, there's also the opportunity to extend the moratorium, but I don't think that would be necessary based on the generalized schedule we have here that we'll see in just a minute. The schedule of actions, these are the things that we anticipate the Planning Board will do during this 6-month moratorium. They will consider the administrative process, whether it's appropriate for a legislative or quasi-judicial hearing, setback requirements, type of road access, screening and buffering, and any other relevant standards deemed appropriate for establishing or maintaining these facilities. So immediately, if this moratorium ordinance is adopted, Committee B of the Planning Board will study the issue. We will work with them as staff to develop a draft recommendation. And then in December, we hope that the Planning Board will hear the draft recommendations from this committee. And then in January, staff will provide an update to this board with those recommendations and ask you if they seem to fit within the context of what you think the issues are as a board. Again, the items A, B, C, and D that we talked about earlier. And then as we continue into January, we get back with the Planning Board probably in February and have a courtesy hearing on these draft text amendments. In March, this board will schedule their public hearing, and it looks like April 6th would be that Monday where the Board of Commissioners will conduct their public hearing and hopefully adopt any revisions that occur to our zoning ordinance. And then if it were adopted, it would also terminate the moratorium. One item that I would bring to your attention is that the moratorium ordinance would not apply to residential property. There's a specific general statute, 153A 144, that allows residential property to erect or place solar collectors on their property, so this would not apply to them. And again, we've mentioned the effective and the termination date several times, but it's here in the closing of the ordinance. So just to wrap up, you're going to conduct a public hearing. No statements of reasonableness or consistency are required. It's just a legislative action. If you choose to adopt it or amend it, we can do that. But that's it. That's it in a nutshell. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ed?
Ed, are there any state requirements? Does the state address that in any way for future additions that we make to this? Our zoning procedures?
Well, we are, This ordinance would only apply to anything that has not been submitted yet. So anything that's in the process or the pipeline, this does not apply to.
Right.
Any new standard that we adopt, all applications that come to us after that date or after today, will have to meet these new standards. In fact, when the call for a public hearing was made in September 3rd, we have no longer accepted any new applications. The word has been put out that the intent to adopt this ordinance is there, and so no further applications have been accepted. Does that answer your question?
No, I understand the moratorium
Okay.
part of it. I'm just saying, do we have guidelines from the state of North Carolina that if we said, as an example, that we want you to only plant a tree that's 20 feet tall and, to buffer things?
No, that discretion is left up to this board.
Okay.
Ed, I'd just like to qualify this. Now, this is only ground-mounted solar systems. In other words, if you want to put them on your house, that's fine.
Right.
Okay.
Ed, I'm curious as to what you're seeing other counties do. Do we have any other examples?
Sure, yeah, we do, and we began to gather them. It varies. There's a it's a variation on a theme, and so our committee will look at it and draft some suggested text that they think is reasonable and practical, and bring them back. Again, based on our schedule, this board will have the opportunity to look and say, yes, we think this is the direction that we want to go, or no, you need to look at this more specifically. So it's got some time for us to do
It'd
that.
be helpful to know some of the counties that have been successful in this and some that wish they had, so we could talk to other county commissioners around the state.
So they're going to also come with some recommendations for decommissioning, that kind of thing?
There are a couple of decommissioning plans that I have seen from surrounding counties that are fairly similar. So we'll look at that too. That'll be part of it.
All right, anything else for Ed? All right, if not, then we'll get to that point again. We will conduct a public hearing. And so if you would like to speak about the issue of the moratorium, then we'll have you come up one at a time. Give your name, address, and you can make any comments that you'd like.
They have to be sworn in.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm pretty rusty at doing this, so if I start getting tongue-tied, I might have to take a break. I have about a 4-minute presentation. We tried to figure out how long of a presentation we were supposed to give, so I made it about 4 minutes. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Claudia Gardner. I am a retired veterinarian who has lived in western Rowan County for over 40 years. This area of the county is rich in farmlands, timberlands, woodlands and wildlife, native pollinator habitats, springs, streams, ponds, and wetlands. It has pleasant residential developments. It has close-knit communities where homes and land have been passed down through families for generations. Western Rowan County has developed historic sites, parks and recreational areas, agricultural and art tourism, land trust, and scenic byways. If you ask most residents in this part of the county if they approve of clean renewable energy, in particular solar energy, the answer would probably be yes. Solar energy systems are popping up rapidly in Rowan County, and North Carolina is the #2 state for solar energy development at this time. Solar energy is a new and rapidly developing technology with a positive image in general. As with all new technologies, implementation often proceeds at a faster rate than regulation, leaving open questions about the benefits versus the risk of such projects. I'll tell you, county, state, national, and international organizations right now are frantically trying to catch up with solar recommendations and regulations as we speak. And to answer the question, North Carolina right now has 2 or 3 commissions studying both large solar plants and also the decommissioning process. And I'll be glad to provide those for you. I am for a moratorium to take time to study the effects of large solar systems within the county, particularly as they apply to Western Rowan County. Here are some concerns that I would like for you to consider if you do have a moratorium. First of all, where are the best places to place large solar systems within the county? And how large is too large? Is the energy benefit greater than the natural resource that it replaces? We know that our land belongs to our citizens. Electricity produced by these entities, and a lot of people call them solar farms, but they're actually, when they become large, become electric utility plants, will not necessarily benefit county citizens. Is it wise to cover hundreds, possibly thousands of acres of productive farmland with massive solar plates for a minimum of 25 years? Solar farms are becoming larger and larger, and farmland easily allows this. Do very large solar farms raise the ambient temperature of the area they're in? Is it prudent to replace timberland, a renewable green energy product, with a solar system? There's a lot of timberland in Western Rowan County. In the construction phase of this type, land stumps are mixed with soil and they're burned away. Our county has had nothing but code yellow and code orange air quality all summer, with smoke plumes that linger make it a code red. The 20 to 30 year cycle of timberline isn't established as a green and renewable resource. It lacks the need to dispose of tons of used products after each cycle. Is it reasonable to destroy our natural resource of woodlands and wildlife to replace it with solar systems? If you cut down one 200-year-old oak tree, and I can tell you there's a lot of 200-year-old oak trees in Western Rowan County, and you replace it with one solar panel, which has the greater carbon sink. While it might be feasible to restore the site back to its original land, common sense tells us that it will take generations to restore the woodlands and the wildlife that are destroyed. What do we stand to lose if we destroy our native pollinator habitats? It is only recently that we are beginning to understand the importance of bees, butterflies, and bats. They actually play a role in our survival. Do we know the long-term effects here? What will result if our water sources are compromised? And who will monitor well water quality? Most of Western Rowan County has well water. Who will monitor soil erosion, downstream effects, and disappearance of wetlands? Secondly, who will be responsible for the monitoring and the liability of such things as the health and safety issues? Who will designate which type of panel is used? As we know, some types of panels, not all, but some contain hazardous waste materials. Who will be responsible for environmental issues? Who will be responsible for the construction, maintenance, and decommissioning phases? I have only been reading up on this for 2 weeks, but I can tell you that decommissioning is something that is one of the great unknowns of solar farms. One needs to have a moratorium on the decommissioning process in itself. We're finding out that the liability for disposal of the tons and tons of waste of solar panels may actually outweigh the cost of coal ash and nuclear waste. Who is going to be responsible for transfer of ownerships, bankruptcies, and abandonment issues? Who is going to be responsible for the financial interests, such as the need for insurance to replace solar panels that are damaged by weather events? The financial interests, such as the surety bonds for construction and decommissioning. The financial interest especially for the cost of decommissioning, and these can actually go to the millions of dollars. And finally, who will be responsible for the liability of the ethical responsibility of not recycling solar panels to third world countries who do not have the resources to handle and dispose of the tons and tons of used panels that will resort? There are several international agencies right now that are trying to make recommendations for international disposal of solar panels, and I'll be glad to give you the literature on that. And finally, and this is something that really bothers me, will citizens be granted fair process when they object to the projects? Owners do have a right to lease their land and do with it what they want. However, we know large, powerful corporations back solar projects. They have planned for years to wine and dine the local communities. They hire teams of lawyers, they have expert research and development teams, and they have designated employees that are paid to present their side of the case to the community. Citizens are informed only at the last phase of the plan. Often taken by surprise, they have little time to respond. Finances are limited to hire lawyers and experts to challenge data. They are forced to miss work. Those that are here now are probably missing work. And just how many of us, unless we look it up, even know what a quasi-judicial hearing process is? We sort of have to review our government processes. I know I did. The process of objection should favor the citizen and not the outside corporation. I have watched solar systems being developed in Western Rowan County over the past years. This area is rich in natural resources, has multiple land uses, and many things that cannot be restored to their original state in 25 years. The legacy of solar panel systems that are being installed today will become the responsibility of our children and our grandchildren 30 years from now. As the old saying goes, all that glitters is not always gold. My suggestion would be to have the moratorium, and let's do this right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner. Do we have someone else? Welcome.
How y'all doing? Okay, my name's Ron Webb. I've run a small business in Rowan County for 38 years. And I consider myself to be a dependable person. If I tell somebody something, I follow through with it. And these solar companies are not. And I've got some photos here that I'm going to pass around. I just got one copy, so I've got them labeled that y'all can look at. But we got major issues. They're doing all this stuff in writing and under oath that they're promising to do, like planting these 8 to 10 foot trees when they finish the project, putting up adequate buffers, which they're not doing, preventing soil erosion, which they're not doing. They're supposed to have livestock at 2 of the sites I were told to visit. I've walked around all the sites, the whole perimeter, just looking. And I'm going to challenge all you commissioners to go out here to these sites and spend time looking for yourself, and you'll see how bad they are. The one at Duns Mountain Road is supposed to be this fantabulous site that's got sheep in there grazing, and that way you wouldn't have to have anybody to go in and cut the grass, and the farmer's going to take care of them. I went down there and spent an hour and a half walking through weeds above your head, trying to walk around the perimeter of it. Never seen the first sign of any livestock, no place for them to get water or anything else. They've actually got erosion so bad, you can see in those pictures, it's got places that's washed under 2 foot deep where the soil has washed away. No ground cover on the outside. Now from the road, you can see it because they have no kind of buffering. It looks good where you see the grass under the panels. But if you walk the outside perimeter of them, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I just think we need to get stricter guidelines, and they're coming to our county and just walking all over us. And I love this county. I thought I was a pretty strong person, but I'm not. And I want to see my grandkids grow up in a beautiful county like I have. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Is there anyone else?
Good afternoon. Hey, Jay. I am here because I didn't really understand one question, and maybe somebody could clear my mind.
Can we get your name
Marion
for the-
Rollins
Thank you.
from Mount Ulla. I'm a hysteric person because I like old things. And I should, because I'm 76 today. Happy birthday. Thank you.
Birthday.
But anyway.
Everybody wish her a happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Thank you. And I'm not trying to not understand, because I've been working on this whole farm that's coming in on a scenic byway for a week. And I have read and read and read. And I am concerned that, first of all, the moratorium needs to be made, and it needs to include this farm on Highway 801, because for one thing, it's on a scenic byway. Another is because it is such an amoeba that who in the world would want to fence a plot that was so erratically drawn? Okay, if it were just a little plot back somewhere, it would make much more sense. And I have been reading about planning and zoning for solar in North Carolina. The Institute of Government provides great information for planning boards to study. This particular pamphlet was produced by Adam Lovely. But anyway, it has excellent information in it, and I think we really should check with experts. I mean, we don't know that these people that are coming in are going to do what they say they're going to do. And I think there's a need for solar, but I think there are places other than the scenic byway. I think that the information that was received on the scenic byway was in a report maybe from the planning department that the scenic byway could be done away with. Well, yeah, we all can be done away with, but it now exists, right? And there is an extension. So if you go on the Scenic Byway website, you will see that that the byway exists, Cheryl's Ford, beginning, I guess, at 150, and then there is an extension into the greater farming area past the research farm. And I think we need to consider the scenic byway, folks. How much scenic beauty is there in our world anymore? How many trees are sequestering carbon anymore? How is our climate changing? And how will it change when we deforest more of our land? Of course, we can't control all that, but we can set parameters. We can do it. I think that this body owes it to its citizens who have been supportive in many ways to have the moratorium not just include the upcoming proposals for solar farms, because we have collected data that some of the solar farms that exist really need some help. We need to have some kind of something to put down on them and say, hey, you give me so many $1 million to get rid of these solar farms, to do away with them so that we can do something else with that land. Otherwise, that part will become just a landfill if people walk away from it. And our county doesn't need that expense. So, rules are important. I will study. I know Mr. Eds will study. I know you all will study what is out there. The Institute of Government is excellent, and other counties have dealt with this. We need to see what they have done, and we need to step up to the plate and do what citizens in Rowan County need, not what somebody wants to line their pockets with, because we can't take any of that money with us. We can't. Please consider, and I am still hysteric, and it's my birthday, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Good. All right, thank you very much. All right, do we have anyone else? Good afternoon, welcome. Is it your birthday today?
Good afternoon.
No? Okay.
Not today.
All right.
My name is Paul Laity, and I live on Old Bradshaw Road. And I'm talking about the so-called China Grove Solar Project. Some of my concerns, I've only got one copy of this, but there is an out parcel that is on the other side of Cheryl's Ford Road, next to the Lutheran Church. There's they call it an out parcel. How are they going to transmit the energy generated by those panels to the
grid?
Transformers, and then from the transformers over to the substation, which is on Neal Road? Are they going to go overhead, power lines, poles, or are they going to go under Cheryl's Ford Road? If they go under Cheryl's Ford Road, they need to put in an extra large culvert to handle the extra storm runoff. There's another finger of land east of our property, which most people refer to as the Webb Farm area. How are they going to transmit the energy from that finger of land, that big area of land, over from the transformers over to the substation on Neal Road? Are they going to try and cut across other people's property? I'm not giving them permission to cut across my property because mine is right in the middle. So And then according to this, they're only saving the existing trees and vegetation in certain areas. Why not save all of the trees and vegetation around the entire perimeter of the project? This project is so big, maybe they need to consider doing away with that out parcel and doing away with that chunk of land to the east of us, the Webb Farm area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right. We're having a public hearing on a moratorium for future solar farms. Welcome.
I'm Kathy Webb, and I live at 308 Webb Farm Road, and I'll be brief. I was just going to answer a couple of the questions earlier. Currituck County has changed a lot of their solar policies, so that's a good county to look at. And the North Carolina DEQ had started work. They met in September. I think it was September 13th was the first meeting, and they are actually working on a decommissioning plan that's supposed to be completed in 2020.
All right, thank you, Ms. Webb. All right, do we have anyone else? Anyone else? Going once? Twice? All right, then we'll close the public hearing. And commissioners, do we have a motion? We don't need a statement of consistency or reasonableness, so we would need to adopt, revise, or reject the moratorium ordinance. Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. The adoption carries. Move on, Chief Solis to talk to us about the Cleveland EMS station. Now, you're not allowed to leave if you were just here for that. You have to stay for the whole thing. And we expect to go till 10 tonight, so. All right, not really. You are welcome to go if you've come for, if you've, you know. Hello, Chief.
Hello.
How are you?
Good afternoon. Commissioners, the last time I was in front of you on this subject, we were asked if the building that was proposed, you know, you would approve the design, and then you asked if that was suitable for our needs, and that was what we had asked for or what we wanted, and if it fit our needs, and the answer to that was yes. So we took back the results of that and let out that design for bid, and we have the bid results, which you've had some preparatory materials for. And right now, I'd like to introduce, bring back up here Pete Bogle, who's our architect for the project, and then I'd like to answer some of your questions and give you a little bit more information.
All right. And sir, what's your name?
I'm Pete Bogle. I'm a Rowan County resident and architect for this project. So we had the bids on the Cleveland EMS station. This project was brought to us with a pre-established budget of $650,000. When we did the bids, or we did the design process, we kept this project just as minimal as we could. The given was we were asked to reuse this one-story building that was part of Cleveland Elementary School, and then do an ambulance bay, pre-engineered metal building, ambulance bay behind it. And so we kept everything just as minimal as we could. When the bids finally came in, we did have a good tight bid. The top 3 bids were very close to each other, but the low bid was $779. With that given budget of $650. So we looked at what we could do to try to reduce this cost to get as close to the $650 number as we could, but still not affect the EMS function out there. then we've prepared for you 4 different levels of changes. The first level of change is very easy. It's just we have a contingency in the project that was set fairly high at $40,000. We can reduce that to a 20. That contingency, as you know, is just if we run into some kind of issue as the project is going on, we have money set aside to take care of that. So changing that down to 20,000 is a net of 20,000 that doesn't change anything with the design of the project. So that brings us down to 759. Level 2 specification changes. Just a couple of small spec changes to some items. And you'll see as we go through these, we started as bare bones as we could, so the changes we're making are not going to move the decimal a whole lot. But spec changes that we don't feel like are going to change really the overall performance of the building. Substitute out for a different lock set grade from a Schlage ND series, which is what's being used on the library next door, to a Schlage AL series, which is just not quite as, it's not rated for as many uses over its life. But I still feel like it'll be fine for performance of the EMS station. There's
when you say lock, are you talking about for the doors?
Yes.
Do we lock them that much? I mean, some.
Well, I mean, just the handles, the door handles, the latch sets, the locks, all of that. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's just the door hardware that I'm talking about. And if we're getting into this kind of detail, I mean, this is, you can tell how much we're trying to get the price down as we can. And there's a few other things under the level 2. I don't know if I need to go through each one of these with you, but level 2, if we take all of those, we'd save another $6,800. Level 3 involves a little bit of design change, but again, not really affecting their intended operations. We've got 4 exterior doors. We've got canopies over top of all of them. We can delete 3 of them and leave the front canopy. We can reduce the front door, which is a pair of 36-inch doors, to a single. We can change the toilet room 103 to an empty storage room. I know Chief Solis actually has a comment on that one now. But again, all of that, we think we can save another $15,390. And then level 4, we get into more.
The $6,800.
Yes. Yeah. Each one of these is level 1, 2, and 3 are in addition to each other. Level 4 changes is ones that it's going to start changing how the project functions and what the intended design was to try to meet what they needed there. Has to do with, if you know this building or remember from our previous presentation, the existing building has 2 sections to it. There's an upper floor well, it's kind of a split level. They're about 2 feet apart from each other. The upper area is where the EMS station itself is, and the EMS station fits in there. The lower level is a big empty room that it's there. We have to put a roof on it if we're going to reuse that building. We're already blocking up all the windows that are in it, putting a new roof on it. EMS station was interested in using that for storage to prolong the lives of their trailers and equipment and things like that. So that's what level 4 really has to do with, is what can we pull out of this to do nothing really with that end of it. And really all we save there to do away with the little bit of work that we're doing in that section is $16,172. So that's why I don't recommend taking that one. I know we're trying to get this budget as close as we can, but for an additional $16,000 to have, what is it, 5,000 roughly square feet of indoor storage, that's a pretty good deal. So Chief Solis, do you want to talk about the toilet issue there a little bit under level 3?
So I think the bottom line is, yeah, very good. That's funny. If you guys refer to the the page that's labeled total budget analysis, it lists out the as-bid, complete expected cost, and then each scenario thereafter. And really, if we're talking about our main goal here is the EMS station. The added benefit of this building was going to be the storage area. If we have to get rid of that storage area and if we have to make all these cuts, absolutely. If we can maintain the core EMS functionality, then that's what we're really after. So on the restroom portion, that was lined at about a $4,000 cut. It was $4,000 savings. And I would, after talking with staff and crews and supervisors, just people on the front lines, and I've been there myself, and it took them to remind me. I've been out of the front line for a little while. You know, if they're called for an emergency call at 2 o'clock in the morning and they're doing reports or they're you know, doing work on trucks or supplies or whatever, and all of a sudden they get a call and they need to use a restroom. Having one restroom for 2 people, most times 3 because we have trainees on these trucks also, you can imagine the chasing around, the waiting game that people are having to wait to use your restroom. So I do consider it more of an operational need. And so if there is any one thing that I can save from this list, that would be my ask of you guys is the restroom there. However, in the end, I really do think that we've started out the mindset to minimize the expense. And I think that shows in the value engineering, because really the savings that was able to be achieved is about a 7% savings there, I think, if that number is right, Pete. And we still have the functional building, and that's including losing the storage space, minimizing the rest of the building. So I guess what I'm here to ask you is to either, I guess, amend the budget to fund the as-bid price, or select one of the scenarios there, or you know, we can seek some sort of alternative solution. And so really those are the 3 scenarios that I see, and I'm happy to hear thoughts, answer questions, to ask you to help us figure this out. Believe me, I don't take lightly the fiscal responsibility, and we are trying to make this fit with the pre-existing budget, but we see how it turned out.
So are you saying you want level 3 and 4 added back?
Well, I would like to keep all of it. But if I could only have one thing to keep, that would be level 3, item 4, which is the toilet room 103, which is a $4,000. And if we have to get rid of, if we have to cut everything else on that list, then so be it.
Yeah, but the level 4 is getting 5,000 square feet of storage for 16,000.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
Mr. Manager, where did the $650,000 number come from?
that was probably the manager's number.
Could you speak up,
From?
please?
You get it from?
Yeah.
That's a good question. No, honestly, I think the number came from, there was some discussion about utilizing a portion of the Cleveland Fire Department, and I want to say the cost that they were offering to the county for the bay was close to 600 or 650. Is that the right number? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was going to be about 600,000 to join their project, and then the 50,000 was, I think, to cover any contingencies and then furniture fixtures.
And we've since asked them if there's some various reasons why that at the time would not have been a great option, but currently would be as good of an option as this one. But according to Chris, he said he talked to them this morning, and that space is no longer available.
Correct.
So this wasn't based on any off of when we approved one in 2015 that took 3 years to build?
No.
But do we remember, how much did we pay for that building? Does anybody know? Was it over $1 million?
No, it wasn't over $1 million. But did we not go out to bid twice for that? Yeah, I want to say it was in the 600.
I think it was 685, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't remember, but it was
Hold on just a second.
very expensive for what it was. It won't have the amount of storage space that this building was, but this is an upfit. This isn't a new building.
So really, I mean, we're looking almost by the time this is done, it'll be 5 years down the road, and the difference is 150,000, 163,000.
We paid 600,000 right at exit.
Right at 600,000 for the Rockwell.
Pete, could I ask you a question, please?
Yes, sir.
In your professional opinion, which of these options is the best to service our citizens?
Actually, I do think that taking level 1 is an easy one because that's a non-money piece anyway. But from there, there's a couple of pieces in level 2 that could easily go away, deleting this engineer stamp, substituting out some MC cable, things that aren't going to affect the performance. If we could keep that better hardware, it would be better. But from there down, I would suggest we keep all of it if you guys can find the funding for it.
Well, I guess my question is, you put cheap doorknobs on, you're going to change them out sooner or later.
Correct.
Canopies, yeah, they can be added, but are you really going to ever come back and add canopies? I mean,
No.
So my concern is that we give Chris and his people what they need to service our citizens from the gate, out of the gate. Don't worry about changing doorknobs and deleting canopies and bathrooms and then end up with something that doesn't service like it should. So your opinion, level 1 is the most efficient long-term.
It is, no question. Even the canopies are going to prolong the life of the doors and the hardware on those exterior doors.
Okay.
Chris, I have a question for you. The cost for the storage is incredibly reasonable. How long would it increase the longevity of the equipment that would be kept indoor versus outdoor?
A specific number, I don't know that I can give you. I can make an estimate, but I can give you an example. We just recently, to support the Hurricane Dorian, we just sent a generator trailer out towards the coast, and that trailer had been sitting outside now for probably 7 years. On the way, it blew 3 tires. So we had to replace those 3 tires, and we'll get reimbursed for those through the hurricane process. But and then on the way back, when they were bringing it back, it blew the other 2. We have, and then the spare was also blown out. So we have 5 new tires on that trailer. So that same scenario plus the wear and tear of the sun is what we're really looking at, the tire rotting in the heat, all that kind of stuff. And I will say, in the storage area that's proposed, I think what we've tried to do is get it so that the heating and the expense and the equipment going into that storage area is extremely minimal. We're not even talking about heat really in that area, because the equipment that we need to store needs very minimal climate control.
What would be the lifespan of this building?
You want to answer that?
Sorry, what was that?
I mean, how long could this function as an EMS station?
Lifespan of the building.
Yeah.
It's a renovation of an existing building. The building's been there since, what was the build date? Late 60s, early 70s. But with this renovation, I mean, it's easily a 30-year building. I know it will it last longer than that? Absolutely. Will you be able to use it for longer than that? Absolutely. But that's in a life cycle cost analysis, that would be a 30-year building.
So we budgeted for 650. Where would the extra funds come from? Balance?
Yes. I mean, I think we also, the library, we budgeted 800,000. We may be able to move that around some. It may not, we may not have to do a general fund budget amendment. We may be able to move it within money already budgeted, depending on some different things that happen. But there's a possibility, especially with the next agenda item, well, not the next one, the MV transportation contract, that we may end up having to do a general fund budget amendment by the end of the year.
So does this come out of general, the regular general fund, or is this coming out of excess of the $0.25?
We can use, if I were doing a budget, I would be pulling from the Article 44 sales tax.
So, but is all of it coming from that, or is this 650 coming from
No,
just general fund money?
all of it so far budgeted is coming from the Article 46 sales tax, which was designated by this board to be for public safety, capital improvements.
So there's an extra 63,000 in there, you think?
Yes, sir.
You want a motion?
Please. Trigger man down there.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we take what money's necessary for level 1 out of the Article 46
Yes, sir.
to pay the difference, to give our emergency service people what they need to take care of our citizens in the western part of the county.
Second.
Does that include the bathroom?
Yep.
Making sure, bottom line.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Chief and Mr. Bogle, good to see you.
Thank you guys very much.
All right, we good?
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right, Mr. Manager?
Next item on the agenda is an agreement with ADW Architects for the Ag Center and Meeting Hall. I'll call your attention, Bob, if you want to go ahead and step up in case the board has questions, but I'll call your attention to the, what's in your agenda packet. It's the last really the last 4 pages of the PDF is the important part, which is Exhibit A, work letter. Not that the other's not important, it's just basically your standard AIA contract with a few adjustments that Bob has made. I will go up to one adjustment that was made. You care if I look at yours? No, I found it.
Page 20.
Yeah, page 20 of 27. Negotiated down to the 6.75. There was also some discussion about if all of the alternatives aren't taken, then that reduces well, they're still going to be designing the alternates. But if you go on further down, or maybe up in the contract where it talks about the pay app, yeah, that's on 21. The next page, if you go to the next page, talks about, you'll see where 11.5 talks about schematic design 15%, design development 15%, construction documents 40%, procurement phase 5%. So construction phase 25%. This contract says that if the alternates are not selected, then we'll come back and negotiate the cost of the 25% of the 6.5%. And I don't know if I did a good job of explaining that, but. Okay, so I'm glad I got that right. Just in case that question comes up, that number can go down, but as I understand it, the number cannot go up.
No, we would not take it up, yeah.
If the building ends up being a $30 million building and for some reason we're able to do a $30 million building and the board decides to build a $30 million building, the max we're going to pay the architect is $1.2 million.
Correct. Yeah, that would, the way the contract is written, it's a stipulated sum, which means it is a fixed number, assuming that the scope of work doesn't change significantly from the base and the alternates that have been proposed. Now, that stipulated sum was arrived at approximately 6.75% of cost of work. That's how we arrived at that stipulated sum. But we'll freeze that number for you if it does go over and for some reason you decide to procure the funds for that.
So when you get to page 24, 27 with the work letter, you see where we requested quote based on, as I understood, the board's actions, and that was the interior would be the base bid, and then you would have 3 alternate bids. The exterior building facade of the Belk building, the parking lot and landscaping of all 3 sides of the Belk building, and then the exterior building of the facade and parking and landscaping of the area between Belk and J.C. Penney's. So if you'll skip down to the second to last page, you'll see what the estimated cost is for each of what I just read. The base scope is $10.6 million. That does not include the architect's fee of $1.2. So if they're estimating the costs of the base bid, which is interior for the departments and the Ag Center, is to be 10.6. So you would add 1.2 million to that to get the true cost of that building. That also does not include fixtures and furnishings. And then if you go to alternate 1, you see that the alternate facade of the Belk building, the estimated cost of work is $3 million. Alternate 2, which is the parking lot and side alteration, is $1.6 million. And then alternate 3 is, going all the way to the J.C. Penney's is $2.7 million, which comes up to a total of $17,900,000 if each of the alternates were selected. Now, I just like to point out that thus far, what the board has seen is preliminary designs. There was an A and a B, or I think it was A and B what we used, or 1 and a 2, and most of the folks liked the B or the 2. But all that was conceptual. Nothing will be designed. I mean, they're going to be back before you a lot. The board will approve and approve and approve until you get probably tired of approving. But from the schematic design to the design and development portion to the construction documents, before we go out to bid, you'll approve going out to bid. Once we go out to bid, you'll approve that. So all the commissioners will have input on what it looks like, and it may be a C or a D. What everybody has seen thus far and what's been in the paper are 2 very different concepts that could change still yet. So those aren't necessarily written in stone. And the interior could change a little bit. With that said, if there's any questions that the board has, I'll be glad to answer them. And if Bob's also here to answer any questions.
Questions for Bob or Aaron? Aaron, our motion today would be to approve the agreement with ADW as provided to us.
Yes, sir. With, you know, might want to put in a motion not to exceed 1.2 million, it's 8, I can't, yeah, the exact amount, so that, you know, it's very clear that it will not go over that price unless it comes back before the board and there's some type of change to this contract.
But we don't need to specify that. That's part of the contract, part of the
Right.
agreement, right? All right, any discussion? All right. Bob, anything from you?
No, Aaron handled it very well.
Probably glad to be at this point, aren't you?
Sure.
Been talking about it
absolutely.
for a long time.
Yep.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this contract with ADW at total cost of $1.2 million.
Second.
Is that the way you want it to? Okay. All right, motion second. Discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Thank you.
get at it.
See you in a month or two.
Yeah.
Back to you guys.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of the negotiated bid contract for transportation management services. In the event the board has a question from MV Transit, Mr. Trinkle is here and he can answer any questions you may have. So this is a surprise. It's not what we expected the bids to come back at. For one, they were the only bidder, which is not good. But we had met in pre-bid conference with other companies, but they were the only ones that bid the project. And so when their bid came in, it was, and still is, a lot higher than what we're currently paying. And what we're currently paying is approximately $1.99 per mile to MV Transit. Their bid came in, and by the way, you know, Leslie worked really hard to negotiate the bid down, and that's why we took it off the last agenda. And MV's been good to work with. We're already, our contract ended October 1st, so today is October 7th. So what we're asking the board to approve is a contract from October 1st to November 30th. And then I'll explain that in a second. But anyway, they've been good to work with us to try to get the price down. But their bid came back at $2.87 per mile. And let me explain what that means. Rowan Transit provides transportation for all our congregate meal sites, Rowan Vocational, Trinity Living Center, Therapeutic Recreation and Parks and Rec, and various different grant programs. I won't go into each one of them. And they also provide transportation for Medicaid. Those are our biggest customers. And the way the Medicaid works, we don't think, well, for the next couple of months, it's not going to affect us, but there's some new Medicaid managed care changes coming that may be not more detrimental, could be very, well, they're only wanting to pay a certain amount, and it may also be bad news for transportation. But we haven't gotten there yet, and that may be delayed. But for Medicaid, so when you see the price go up, Medicaid, as I understand it at this point in time, they will reimburse us for the cap. I mean, for what we spend. And right now, our Medicaid is projected to be $304,000 a year, which again is our biggest client. And the increase to the Medicaid will be $411,000, so about $100,000 increase to Medicaid. And that's good news for the next couple of months, but if this new change comes, it may not be good news. So that part of the increase can be absorbed for now. You've also got, it's the, what is it, that goes from here to Kannapolis every day.
Rowan Express.
Rowan Express is also in here, and that's covered by four municipalities. And then you've got several other little programs that we provide transportation for. So aside from the Medicaid portion, this means that either, based on the price that the bid came in, that either services and trips are going to have to be reduced, or there's going to have to be money to come from somewhere to keep the same level of service. Okay? So, you know, it leaves, you know, there's only a couple of folks, the agencies that would provide services to, like Trinity Living, RVO, increasing their cost. Parks and Rec, which is the county, it's increasing their own costs, so it's, you know, or the county making the difference, or in some cases, like the Rowan Express South, raising the fare, the rider fare, you know, the fare. Currently, as I understand it, the county does not put any money into that. A certain portion comes from the federal government, and then Kannapolis pays a portion, Salisbury pays a portion, China Grove pays a portion, and Landis pays a portion. But with the way the cost has went up, either the Fed portion is not going up. So either the four agencies are going to have to go up, or the county would have to make up the difference. So,
What percentage of the, do we know what percentage of the budget that would be?
initially, it was 44% at the $2.87 per mile.
No, I'm talking about the municipality's portion of our budget from last year, let's put it that way.
Okay, for example, with the Rowan Express route, which goes from Salisbury to Kannapolis, based on this information I have here, Salisbury gives $10,700, Kannapolis gives $10,700, China Grove and Landis gives $7,500 to make that up. So for that particular grant, Rowan Express, what we had projected was approximately, and again, these numbers are approximate, was approximately $159,000. So of the $159,000, Salisbury, Kannapolis, China Grove, and Landis made up $20,000, $30,000, $35,000 of the $159,000. The problem is, just using this one as an example, the price went from $1.99 to $2.87, which means the $159,000 for Rowan Express is now going to go, and this is all projected, you know, to $217,000, which means there's a $58,000 shortfall for the Rowan Express. Okay, So that shortfall can be made up by the county providing the difference, the municipalities who have requested the service or are getting the service providing the difference, or the riders providing the difference. So.
Or cut routes.
Or cut routes. Well, yes, but now there's some, because you're getting the federal grant, yeah, you can, but.
I'm just saying you've
Yeah.
got 4 options.
Yeah.
None of them are good,
None of them are good.
but there are 4 options.
There are 4 options. So what we've, and you understand if the example I just provided, when you look at Medicaid and see that's just a direct reimbursement, how that really doesn't affect us as much as like the Rowan Express or RVO or Trinity Living, because those agencies, I mean, you know, we're asking them to reimburse the difference, and that could be, you know, a very heavy burden to put on them, especially when they don't know. They have, I mean, they know to a degree, but they haven't had time to plan for it. So.
Well, and I've already received calls from at least one agency that's concerned about this.
So about the only good news I have is that Leslie negotiated the rate down to $2.43 just for 2 months. So
I have some questions, if you would. Thank you for being with us.
A brief introduction.
Yeah, sure.
I'm Steve Trinkle. I'm the Senior Vice President of Southeast Region for MV Transportation. That goes from Louisiana East, Virginia South. I live in the metropolis of Todd, North Carolina. If anybody knows where that is, 2 points for that. It's in Ashe County up northeast of Boone. So,
nice place. Horrible part of the state.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's awful. Just don't tell anyone about it, yeah.
So just an introduction to our company, which feels a little bit odd. We have been providing transit service in Rowan County for 16 years, since 2003. Our company is the largest provider of what's called paratransit services anywhere in the United States. We're privately held. We started in the 70s in San Francisco when our 2 founders were carrying their next door neighbor down 2 flights of stairs to put in their van to take them to work every day. And a business was born from that. So we've been in business for 46 years. We are the only major in the United States that is not foreign held. We are held entirely in the United States. We, just my region, I have all the buses in Atlanta, in Orlando, the 3 county regions. I've got 16 counties in Florida. We do Raleigh, Wake County, the shuttle buses at Raleigh-Durham Airport. We want to be here in Rowan County. We've been here for a long time. We'd like to stay. We also run all the school buses in all 7 boroughs of New York City. So we do a lot of different things, but only in transit. That's our business. We don't venture outside of that, and we're quite good at it. May I answer your question that you were about to ask? The reason the cost went up so much is we have been underpaying our operators, our drivers. We got ourselves caught in a bind in our last contracting. The drivers were only making $10 an hour. The MV in our name stands for most vulnerable. So we take care of the most vulnerable people in any community. And to ask people to push wheelchairs and to load people and take care of people with mental disabilities for $10 an hour, it's a hard discussion, and we were starting to have a lot of turnover. So we had to raise the drivers' wages. In our last contract, we also didn't do a terribly good job. We've been losing money here. It's the bottom line. We've been losing money in Rowan County, yeah. So we had to solve a number of problems all at once. I've been with the company about a year. I came out of retirement to do this job because it's a bit of a give back. It's a chance to be a community oriented and work in communities such as Rowan County. So, look, I understand the need and the desire to do the math on an in-source. You should do that. I'll help. If you, literally, I'll sit down with you and work it out, and if it's in the best interest of the community, let's come to that decision. But that's the reason that the price went up, and if you have other questions beyond that, I'm happy to answer them.
What was the amount of increase from $10 to what is their current rate?
Vinny, what do we take them to? That's the starting wage, by the way.
The starting wage as of December 1st will be $12 an hour.
Yeah, so a 20% increase. And that's where the 2-month negotiation was, is we just agreed to defer the driver wage increase. We took a couple of other positions and deferred them for 9 months to align with the fiscal calendar, just to provide some level of relief as well.
Are you going to be able to find drivers for $12 an hour?
We do. A lot of people that we attract into these positions are retired and either have a pension from the military or some other function. How many drivers we have over 70?
In my division, currently, we have 7.
7 drivers over the age of 70. So,
one gentleman in 2 weeks turned 80.
yeah, but they have to pass all of the safety requirements. I mean, there's no latitude for any issues with safety. And do keep in mind, since I mentioned safety, we pay for the insurance, we pay for collision repair. We cover, you own the buses, but we cover all the insurance as a part of that price. So, and as you all know, insurance rates are not coming down.
Yeah, guys.
Is that a SWAT or us? 2 insurance agents? This is honestly not meant to be a political thing, but, this is the challenge of a 3.5% unemployment rate. It is a workers' market. We're seeing it in local government. We're seeing it in business. And folks are having to pay, I've said it, I'm paying a whole lot more for staff than I did just 5 years ago. Jim's doing the same. I know Craig has. And so that's the benefit, is it raises all standards. And so I think, that was going to be my question. Of course, you knew I was asking you up here. 44% was the number that we started off with. And we'll just have to take your word for it. Is that pretty representative of what you're seeing in Orlando and Louisiana and Atlanta? And
yeah, you're actually quite a bit less than some of those other markets. And a lot of the communities in Florida have adopted a living wage ordinance. West Palm Beach is an example where my starting wage for drivers is $16.43, because that's the government does actually, the federal government says, here's the living wage in any particular community. It'd probably be right around the $12 rate here as a living wage. So we're pretty close to that with the $12 starting rate. I'd have to check it to be sure.
How many drivers does it take to man the buses in our?
What do we have right now, Vinny? 42?
I currently have 28.
Oh.
I'm trying to hire another 4.
Okay.
For
So
this,
less than I thought.
For
Yeah.
this area?
We have enough to suffice for the routes, but I need one spare, so when people take vacation or
Right.
call up sick, that I have someone available without myself having to get on the bus, which I've had to do. I've driven the express route myself at least 4 times in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
And how many units do you operate?
We have 28 buses in the fleet. On average, we have about 20 to 22 buses on the road, depending on the peak time of day.
She's bringing you a microphone, Vinny.
And you own those buses, and we own the buses.
You own the buses.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was it?
We got it.
Okay. But you don't have more drivers than you do buses on the road?
I have equal drivers for buses at the moment.
Typically, you're going to have a couple of out of the fleet for preventive maintenance,
Okay.
for engine overhauls, for transmission replacements, collision repairs. So
What did the ridership, what do they contribute to this transportation?
Can I?
It depends. And that, I don't mean to be evasive, that is a complex question
I
in Rowan
understand it
County.
depends on the
There's
person's-
12 different agencies that we bill here, and that's different depending on which agency.
Well, for example, the Express, what do those people pay?
All right, with the Express, the best thing I can say is we're running, what is it?
The reason we're struggling with that question is we don't bill that's the client, that's Rowan County's thing to bill the client. We would have to have Franklin here to get the specifics on it.
Currently, for the express trips, it's $2 a trip.
That's round trip?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no, Express is, they pay $1 each way.
Yeah. So, yeah, $2 round trip.
Yes.
$2
Sorry,
round trip.
but yes.
That,
A lot of them don't pay anything, especially your HCCBG, your share ride.
Well, that's on the paratransit side.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
not the Express bus.
So some of the grants allow us to charge a passenger fare, but other grants don't allow that.
What about in the special cases? For example, people that you're taking to dialysis and these kind of things. Are we reimbursed from the insurance companies or?
What happens, the way this set up is on a couple of different grants. Two of them are set up where they're supposed to do a copay basically of $2 a ride. Okay. Now, there is a portion of them that are supposed to pay that haven't. The county has been basically picking up the full thing on that. It's hard to tell someone who's taking dialysis, we can't transport you, and we didn't want the board to get inundated with a whole bunch of calls that you really didn't need to get.
And like for the dialysis, that's through road, and we only contribute approximately 10%.
Okay.
They have to pay the rest. So unlike some of the programs, like Trinity Living Center, based on this sheet is 50% federal, 50% the agency that pays. So it's, I mean, it's just, there's a big spreadsheet, and it's all over the place, depending on which agency, what purpose that agency's using it for.
Yeah, the grants range from 100% federal and state, no county match, no match from anyone else. It's 100% federal and state. There are 90-10 grants. There are 85-15 grant. There is an 80-20 grant, and there is a 50-50 grant. So it's a little complicated.
Yeah, it's a complex system, especially here in Rowan County with all the different agencies we deal with.
One of the things that Leslie negotiated it from 287 to 243 from October 1st to November 30th, so basically to December. And then she negotiated it down from the bid was 287 from December 1st, 19 to June 30th, 2020 to $2.71. And then the $2.87, which was in the bid, goes from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2020. July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2022 is $2.80. Yeah, it would be a 3-year contract. But what we're at, do I need to repeat all that? So, that's why everybody was talking. So, what we're recommending, I mean, is that the board approve the contract is one thing because we have to have it, but what we plan as staff to do to get through this time is for the next 3 months, so from October, November, and December, that the county bear the difference of the 199 to 243, so the 43 cents per mile is the, and to do, we think that if we can do that, then that will give us 3 months to meet with each agency and the municipalities and let them know what's going on, what changes we're going to have to make, and hopefully there won't be any changes that reduce services, but there'll be changes made, and it may be that the fare goes up. It may be that, you know, some of the agencies can take on some of the costs with us. But so the next 3 months, come up with a plan to get us through from January to June 1st. I mean, June 30th, 2020. And during that time for us also to determine if we can bring it in-house and do it for less money. You know, I don't know if we can, but that's something we plan on looking at, because we certainly can't, something has to give somewhere. And it may be that giving is a collaboration of the different agencies and different partners, but there's going to have to be some changes in Rowan County Transit.
I understand that there's, you know, that the economics of that thing, there have to be some changes, but before we take on a whole new division with 28 people, and we're self-insured in our insurance, so we're taking on what, we've got $1 million deductible on the insurance, so we're having to take on that responsibility also, where they, right now, they have that responsibility, if I'm correct about that.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own insurance. We've got to offer salary, we have to offer health insurance, disability insurance, all the other types of coverages that we offer to employees. So I hope Leslie does her magic in one way or another here, but it really is something that I would hope that we could find the money somewhere to do it other than to take on a responsibility that we would have forever, because the federal government's, you know, I don't know what they're going to do about increasing budgets, but anyway, it's a big responsibility for us to leap into this, in my opinion.
So you need a motion?
No, wait, hang on. Just a note about Medicaid and the changes. It's not if, it's February next year.
That is what we're being told.
Yeah.
It's February of next year, but the state was going to implement 3 phases.
Right.
And phase 2 was supposed to be implemented in October, and it's not being implemented now. So they're saying phase 2 and phase 3 will be implemented together in February.
Right. And just for my colleagues' information is that Medicaid is changing from, it's requiring the continuum of care. So, like for instance, all our mental health folks, they will have, like our doctors, medical doctors, have to join together with mental health folks. So it's like they can like refer and all be in one system. I don't know how else to explain that, but there's a lot of us that are nervous about that as far as how much the feds are going to continue to contribute to Medicaid. I've heard some scary things as far as reductions that are coming, and you know, we're at the bottom of the totem pole, and it's going to get put on us.
Yeah, Mr. Trinkle, can you share with us what, if this Medicaid thing goes through, what on average they're going to be reimbursing per mile?
Very little. I don't remember the exact number,
I've heard
but
$1.
Yeah, it's really low. Not to make it worse, but the way Medicaid is being restructured from a transit position is we're a transit provider. We try very hard. It's actually in our corporate statement. We are trying to provide the best customer experience that we can. Hence, the number of complaints that come in to Rowan County is actually fairly low considering the volume of people that we transport every day. Medicaid has no such qualms because their idea of the transit is make that cost as little as possible. Can't your brother take you to your care? So we, as a company, are actually walking away from a lot of the Medicaid trips. A lot of times the trips are structured to where it is a price per trip. If you need to go across the street or you need to go to Seattle, it's the same price. So, and there's no guaranteed volume of business, and I have to buy all the buses. I mean, it's very difficult to make a workable business model out of the Medicaid transit. That the difficult problem that you will face as county commissioners is those people still live in your county and they're very vulnerable. So we'll need to find ways to work together in the business community and the public sector to figure out how to make sure that those people are taken care of one way or the other, because ultimately they're still here and they're still a very vulnerable population.
And so in the event that, let's say that the reimbursement's $1.25 or 90 cents or $1, our cost is $2.87.
Yeah.
So now there is no cap. They reimburse what the cost is. When this change comes, I mean, there's just a lot of unknowns, and we're going to be talking about this a lot.
Yeah. Wake County, as an example, is just pulling it out and saying we're no longer responsible and giving it to the brokers. And so there's Medicaid brokers like OneCall.
What does that mean?
That means that the county itself is not responsible for Medicaid trips. They do not handle them. That goes directly to the brokers outside, which would go directly to United Healthcare, through a broker called OneCall or something to that effect. So it's not managed by the county. What is happening is it's right. It's pulling it into the managed care portion. So what we're seeing happen is, because the service is so unpredictable, who knows when you're getting picked up, can I actually make my appointments, is people that qualify for Medicaid also qualify for other programs and will do anything to get back in a ADA, a transportation disadvantage, which puts it back on the county, and now you haven't budgeted for it. So there's a lot of complexities to work through here. But just to reiterate, we want to be part of the solution to this. Transit is very important to people in the community, and I'll sit down with Leslie and Aaron and whoever else we need to and work through the problems because they are ultimately solvable, I believe.
One last thing, if the board approves this, do know that there will be a budget amendment we'll bring back to you once we determine exactly how much we think the increase is going to be for the year. We've talked generally, and I think you're looking at a minimum of $200,000 to keep things like they are. So
now that's for the 3-year contract?
No.
That's for the next 9 months.
Next 9 months.
Okay. Just want to know.
But we're hoping that by January we can have a better plan and better understand it. But then you've got this Medicaid management care plan too that's out there that we don't know how that's going to affect it. But we'll meet with all the agencies that we provide transportation to and make sure they all understand it, and all the municipalities, and try to come up with the best solution we can.
And I would just like to add that Rita Peters in my office sent all of you a revised MV contract. Jay, do you have any comments about that? Okay, it's just I had uploaded one, and MV asked for some changes, didn't affect the rates, didn't affect the length of the contract, and Jay's approved that also. So the contract that you would be approving is the one that was emailed to you.
So I want to just reiterate what Aaron just said. This is a big issue, and so to the community, the 5 commissioners say that we understand this is a critical component of need. And so over the next 3 months, our leadership team will be looking into this, trying to come up with a suitable plan. And all of those agencies that are involved will be part of those discussions. And so we'll move forward over the next 90 days and include them in all those discussions.
One more thing. Lizzie, did you tell us a while ago that most of the riders on Kannapolis Express were riding for just to go to work?
I may have said that, but I may have said that on the phone, that that's my understanding, but that there may be other reasons they're riding the Express.
Well, I was just wondering, because if they're using it to commute, which quite frankly I support, but if they were able to pay more and if the federal government allows us to charge more.
We'll definitely explore those options.
All right, so we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with MV Transportation.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Being here for answering
And we do
questions.
appreciate your business. We've been here 16 years. We look forward to a long relationship.
All right, I need to go back. We jumped over item 7. Oh, no, we didn't. No, this is 7A.
There we go.
So, let's see. 7A was for budget amendments, so motion to approve budget
So moved.
amendments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, item number 8, board appointments. We'll go through these. Atwell Volunteer Fire Department Commissioners Kellyanne Blaylock and Jeff Moore applied for appointment. Motion to accept those.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Historic Landmarks.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
is there 2 openings?
I thought there was. Yeah,
Hey, that's the reason I asked.
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Historic Landmarks Commission, Catherine Denise Green applied for a vacancy, and motion and approve, second to approve that.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Housing Authority, Hattie Johnson applied for reappointment for a 5-year term. Motion to approve, Ms. Johnson.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Liberty Volunteer Fire Department, Fire Commissioner Timothy Shaver applied for reappointment for a 2-year term. Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Region F Aging Advisory Committee, Alex Bruce applied to fill a vacancy that expires July 31st of 2021. Motion and a second.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Rowan Transit System Advisory Committee, Mr. George Benson resigned from the committee. Motion and a second to accept that resignation.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There are 53 vacancies on various county boards. Had the pleasure of speaking to Leadership Rowan last week. We're putting folks through leadership, and here's a good opportunity for those in our community to step forward and take part in leadership. So we would ask you to contact one of your commissioner friends or go online and take a look at the openings that there are, and let's get these filled. Is there anything else for the good of the board?
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.